Believe it or not, it's another VO podcast with three guys who are full-time voice actors at different stages of life, career, and location.
But they have formed a bond and work together to hold each other accountable and help each other on their VO path.
Three guys from different backgrounds working together, helping each other, and sharing with you along the way.
Hey, what are we calling it again?
It's another VO podcast.
Okay, guys. Sorry, I get it. Come on, you're not my dads. Hey guys, welcome back to It's Another VO podcast. I'm Jake Sanders. I'm here with Alden Schoenberg and Troy Holden. Alden, I probably botched your last name, but that's cool.
Nailed it. Perfect.
Oh, nailed it. Cool. Well, yeah,
you screwed mine up, though. Oh, what the heck?
Troy Holden? Is that not it? It's Troy Holden, right?
You got it, man.
Okay,
good. He's giving you the jazz.
Well, I am a gullible person. Just ask my family members. They will tell you. Yeah. But anyway, I think today we're going to talk about our why behind why we got into voiceover and what drives us to keep going, along with maybe some things that we picked up from our previous jobs before we got into voiceover and things that help us now that we picked up prior. Cool. What about you, Alden? You got anything to add to that?
Well, yeah. One of the things that attracted me to voiceover so much was the freedom you could have. You know, obviously, you're building your own business. There's a lot involved, but you can set your own schedule. You're not glued to a 9 to 5 necessarily. And if you have to be gone, you want to go do something with family or you have a concert you want to go see, you just go see it.
Right.
You know, just move your recording schedule around and make it work. And that really attracted to me. Also because, you know, in last week's podcast, we talked about one of the reasons that we moved and I had to jump full time was because of my father-in-law's health situation.
Mm-hmm.
So being in voiceover, having my own studio, I could just pop down anywhere. We work remote, you know, so the freedom to live anywhere and be with family, be near family and be a part of their help solution. You know, when my father-in-law has a need, you know, we can go help out. And he's had a few over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so. Man, that's very true. VoiceOver definitely allows you to accommodate all of those things. This isn't like a great thing, but I mean, this allows, you know, VoiceOver having this schedule allows me to go see the first showing of that new Marvel movie that comes out whenever, you know, I'm really into that. So I'll take advantage of that every now and then. What about you, Troy? What about, what do you got for that?
I do like the flexibility. I didn't take advantage of it very much my first year full time because I was so worried about not being here if somebody needed something. But I'm learning that people don't mind waiting a few hours.
Sure.
You know, I think I had in my mind I had to do it right now, but you don't, as long as you get it to them reasonable. And they know that. Probably the other thing to me was, and I know this sounds terrible, but not having to go through the change that was going on in the workforces, in the companies. You know, I'd been doing automotive since 1994 was when I went into automotive. And it was different then. I mean, you know, here's you go into a company like Nissan and the way things were structured and the way they were done. And, you know, yes, I think it's great that we've got this inclusiveness and we've got all these I love you, you love me things going on now. You know, that's okay. But man, was it really hard to manage people these last 5 to 7 years.
I'm sure.
And I don't miss that. I don't. I always wanted to help people and I couldn't tell you the number of people that work for me that got, that learned and got groomed to do other things. And now I see them, one guy came in working for me, just doing some stuff where we were bringing the orders from the plant, and his job was to make sure that data came in the system correctly. He was in IT, and now he's like an IT director at Nissan. So it thrilled me to get to help people like that and give them a leg up and get them in the business. But I kind of miss that part. But man, not having to manage people anymore, You know, I'm hard enough to manage. I don't need anybody else.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, that's interesting you say that you miss helping people, but I gotta say, man, like, you've helped me a lot, and I see you out there helping other people too, so maybe it's not, like, to the same degree, that,
Yeah,
you did
yeah,
back in
and
automotive, but, you're still putting yourself out there and willing to help
yeah,
people with the voiceover, and that's really cool of you.
yeah, absolutely. Love doing that, and that's one of the things I love about this. I think I enjoy that as much as I do the actual work because I like to give back and pay it forward and all that. And now I feel like I'm to a point I can. When you're first in it, you're just learning. Then all of a sudden, it's like I talked about over on the other podcast this week that you don't realize what you know until other people are asking you questions. You're like, yeah, I know how to do that. Yeah, I can do that. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
amazing.
funny. That's funny having that realization too. I mean, like, because you never say to yourself, "Okay, now I can do this." It's not until like the need comes for you to help that you realize, like,
Right.
I can do this. Like
Right.
that's what it turns into.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, like, if my wife, for instance, I like the freedom thing. That definitely adds to it. That Alden brought up. But man, I really want to just be able to like provide a good life for like not only me and my girlfriend, but like like my mom, for instance. I mean, like, I want her to be able to live where she wants to live, and which is closer to me. And at the time, right now, she just can't. But I hope I get to a place. I'm not sure how long it'll take, but I hope I get to a place where I can finally like bring her down closer to me, spend a lot more time with her, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about is the time that we have left with everybody, like, the people we love.
Right.
And with things, clearly being able to go crazy out of nowhere, as we've experienced in the last couple of years, you just never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
that's definitely
True.
something I'd like to
True.
focus on. That's something that I use to focus when I kind of get down about voiceover. It's like, wait, keep the focus first and foremost, and then just keep grinding. Trust the process; it'll happen. There's proof in the pudding that I can do this, and that's definitely something that drives me to keep pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And see, that's a big part of what you mentioned earlier is the why. Why do you do this? Why are you doing it? Why do you keep going? That's a big part of it. The little touch of sadness I have with it is my dad passed in 2016,
Mm.
and he was always my biggest supporter because I always had some hobby going on. I mean, horses have always been a hobby. He was always going to the horse shows with me. But I played music for a long time, and every Friday night and Saturday night, wherever I went, he was there. And he would complain about the place. You're going to get cut in here. Somebody's going to shoot you in this place. But he would always be there and always support it. And if our soundboard blew up on Friday night, Saturday morning, he's like, well, let's go down here to the store and get another one. We got to keep you going, and he never got to see this. And I think he really would have got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
He really would have got a kick out of it that, I've got stuff that's played local on TV and radio and stuff, and he could possibly have been, hearing it. And of course my mom does, but with him, you're always wanting dad approval,
Sure.
so, but I
Sure.
hate he didn't get to see it, but it's
Yeah.
part of it.
Another thing I look at, and I have 5 grandchildren. I know, right? How
I
in the
would not
world?
have guessed that, to be honest with you,
No, I
looking
wouldn't
at
either.
you, Auden.
And they live in different states, So
Oh.
for me to travel, for us to take off and go see our grandkids, if I was doing my last job, which was working in a church, well, I only got about 4 weekends off per year. And let me tell you, split that up, that's not enough to go see grandkids. Not
Right.
nearly enough.
Not if you got 5, yeah.
Yeah.
So that freedom and that independence, is real important when you start having
Right.
kids and grandkids spread out all over the United States.
And that's the thing across the country since COVID. It's not just with voice actors. People have come to that realization that time and family and this, what they want to do is more important than having this house or having this job or whatever. And people are really changing their lives. I saw an article that said over the next 5 years, we're even going to see that hugely change again. How people work, where they work. We're going to see even more at home work. And but I'm glad to be able to do this. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is I mean, add it to your why. I don't know if someone makes fun their why, that's fine. But this job is fun. I mean, like how often, like
Yeah.
you get in a booth to audition so many times a day, and I mean that so many times. So you get to play so many different characters. Sure, auditions might be similar, but I mean, I'll be in there 1 minute being like conversational and just doing the da 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 thing, but then they want like some kind of spooky character. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like you're telling a story around the campfire, so you get to jump in here and just be something that you don't normally get to be. And that is fun. And, and, they say like if you do what you love, you never, work a day in your life. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of true to extent. You can get a little tired of it every now and then, but I mean, like, how often do you come home, get off work and like, man, I had fun at my job today? I mean, I'm sure there's people out there, but I mean, this is definitely one of those jobs. And to be able to make money doing it is really, I don't know, kind of like a blessing, you know what I mean? Like I'm really grateful for that opportunity and that I've found where I feel like I can be creative. So that's definitely something to take in consideration about this
Yeah,
job.
and another thing the three of us do have in common. I mean, we're coming at this from different angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I noticed last week we all have in common is we're performers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you both are musicians as well.
Yep.
You know, so there's something gratifying being a performer, sending out this piece you've created, whether it's a piece of music or a voiceover that you've crafted, and then getting feedback from that. Like, wow, that turned out so great. Wow, you're really good at this. Performers live off feedback.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as like you don't want to ask people. I mean, like at least for me anyway, I'm always like, so what did you think? You know what I mean?
Right?
But at the same turn, it's also hard for me to believe everybody that says, like especially if they don't have anything to give me like criticism wise, like just hey, change, even if it's something small, but it's just like, oh, it was great, I really liked it. I'm always walking away from a situation going, did you though? Like so.
Right? Yeah.
That's how I am about that.
Well, and even if we don't get that feedback, we know how we felt creating it,
Right.
and we know what we took into it.
Right.
And we're proud of oftentimes the end result.
Yeah, if you connect to something, you know it.
Yep.
You just know it. Off the subject, you guys use chapstick, lip, what a balm, whatever.
Yeah.
If I do, it's petroleum jelly.
It amazes me that I should have discovered this a long time ago. Of course, I knew it's been around, but I never did have it in the booth or anything. And these longer form things that I was doing, I was noticing things were not coming out like they should. My mouth would get either drier and I would hydrate it to the point I couldn't drink anymore. I felt like I was sitting here sloshing around. And I started with these and it just amazed me where it also eliminated some mouth noise.
Yeah, that was one of the things I saw about mouth noise is that like try not to do too much caffeine. Make sure, like I guess it was like for every cup of caffeine you have, like make sure you have like 2 cups of water. I don't know what that whole thing is, but then the importance of brushing your teeth and using chapstick definitely help eliminate noise sounds. But I mean, noise sounds. Yes, noise sounds. Mouth sounds.
I break all the rules. I break them all. I've got this big giant insulated cup, and I've got one that's about 3 inches taller, and it's the coffee cup, and it'll hold 3 regular cups of coffee.
Sheesh.
I fill that up first thing in the morning and put a pretty decent amount of creamer in there, which is another no-no. You shouldn't have the dairy products. But I just, I think it was Dan Friedman talking about it. He said, why should you cut out all your life's wonderful habits just because you're a voice actor?
Yeah.
Use your software and edit the stuff out or set it up where it takes it out. And really, thank you, RX10, because I don't have to worry about coffee and coffee creamer. I just have my way with it.
This message has been sponsored by RX10.
And then, to make it worse, this is tea bag tea, and they make one called Southern Sweet Tea, and it has Splenda in it instead of sugar. And you boil the tea bag, and the tea's already sweet, and it's full of caffeine, and I drink the heck out of that all day. I'll probably drink a gallon of that tea a day.
Dang.
All the no-nos. So,
And Troy's advice book will be coming out next week. Make sure you tune in.
How to not do
right.
voiceover.
Right.
That's right.
Well, let's get back on topic real quick. I think one of the things we wanted to talk about too was things that we took from our previous jobs before getting into voiceover and applying it to voiceover. Alden, you said you worked at a church, so I'm sure you have very similar things that you do. But what's
he prays he gets every job.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Lord answers. Sometimes He says, "Not yet."
Yeah. What's something you took from your previous
I was
job?
a church musician.
Okay.
Directing choirs, leading praise teams, and leading Sunday mornings congregational singing, and did that for 27 years. And my training, my degree is in music. I have a bachelor in church music.
That's cool.
And so doing that for so long, I know the equipment. I know how to mix sound. I have a good ear for these kinds of things. So I also think I'm pretty skilled at picking good background music, to match a spot whenever people hire me to do that as well.
Yeah.
And so I brought all that in. I know how to use a microphone. None of that's new to me. I'm used to hearing my own voice and recording. I've done that for years and years.
Yeah.
And some of that is very intimidating for somebody just getting into voiceover. Oh, I don't like the sound of my own voice. Well, you're gonna
get used to it.
You're gonna have to get used to it. Ain't nobody else's voice you're gonna use,
right?
So I brought a lot of that in. Also, some of the softer skills. When you work in a church, you work with volunteers, almost completely volunteers. So you're not making anybody do anything. You invite them to be a part of the project that's going on. Whether you're planning, a big concert or something, outreach-wise with music, involving musicians and singers to be a part of that. You have to be coordinated. You have to have a plan, and then they buy in. They believe in you that you can get the job done. And working in that field, I knew that good musicianship attracted good musicians.
Right.
So good voiceover demos attract good clients.
Absolutely.
True.
And that's the dream.
True.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Troy?
I think maybe the thing that I use the most is probably time management.
Interesting.
Which was always a big thing for me because I was always scheduling stuff logistically, whether it was worldwide or something in town, and being able to balance that stuff. And the other thing was what they taught at the tier level of automotive manufacturing was everything should be a robust, repeatable process. So, and when you're building these cars, you do it the exact same way every car. If your job was to put in the steering column, your left hand was always in a certain spot, and you put it in, you put it up, you got so many bolts in your hand, you shot them in a certain order, and you did it every time to ensure quality. And I really apply that to voiceover when I'm editing a lot, that I want it to be efficient, but it has to be quality. So I look at all those kind of things, and I try to repeat the same process for everything. Sure. I don't try to reset my EQ. I don't try to reset my stuff. It's the same very basic process for everything, and that way I put out the same quality product every time.
Across the board.
That's kind of where mine comes from.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, as for me, like I said last week, my last job was I was an account manager at a private jet company for 8 years, and I worked in the obviously the customer account management department. But one of the things they stressed, at least when I first started working there, was that we know our accounts. Like once you have your accounts, like you start to know them. I mean, like we would know about their families. We would know their food preferences and stuff like that. I never really got super close to any of my clients, but I knew them pretty well. But I knew some account managers who their clients would just call them to talk. I can't get too into detail because of just, their top 1% kind of stuff, but there would be people who produce certain content that would call my coworkers and be like, hey, what'd you think of last night's, episode? It would be on TV or whatever, stuff like that. And they would literally sit there for 30 minutes and give their opinion or their play-by-play on what they thought of that episode. So that was always very interesting to see that. So it's funny that I'm able to still apply that now to my voiceover clients, like apply that, try to we're having a human to human connection, interaction. So instead of, treating these, my clients like just that, a client, I try to establish that connection to hopefully build, keep me top of mind in their mind. I like working with that guy who's, pretty personable, who likes, he likes to, maybe have a quick talk, outside of the fact that we're just doing a job together kind of thing. And so far that's been pretty cool. Like I'm still just now kind of starting off with my marketing thing in the last 6 months, but the people I have connected with, I'm getting there with that personal side of things. And another thing I like that Alden said last week was about, when we get that new client, we need to treat them like they're walking into our business, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much my first job as a teenager was a host at a restaurant, and I was the first person they saw when they came in. So it was always like, I worked at a place called Mimi's Cafe. And so people would walk in and I'd be, hey, welcome to Mimi's. How's it going today? And for some reason, I always ended up trying to make them laugh if I could, and so one of the things that I did on Sundays when it was busy is I got to call people out when the waiting list got full and call them to their table. And this was like the first time I ever thought about doing voiceover, but my boss came to me, my boss heard me doing this one time, but it'd be like, Smith, party of 3. So I'd get on the little intercom thing and I'd be like, Smith, party of 3, your table's now available. Smith, party of 3. Like, just be like very like precise with it. And he came up to me and was like, you should work for an airline and just sit there and announce things all the time. And I was like, that'd be funny. But the more I thought about that, the more I was like, maybe I could get into voiceover. And then it kind of just went from there. But anyway, applying things from your previous, like, you never know what's going to come in handy from your previous jobs, period. Whether it is in your next job or whether it's just out in life. Yeah. And I think it's really important that you always be appreciative of where you came from and what you were able to take away from it,
Right. I look at that too. Back when I was in those industries, I started out, I was a line technician. I was a guy, shooting the steering column, putting it in the car, putting the jump seat in the truck and shooting it down. And I did that for about a year. And then I started applying for what they called area manager jobs. And as I moved up in management through automotive, I never forgot being that guy on the line that had to put the stuff in. I always remembered what it felt like. I always remembered some nights I didn't want to come to work. I remembered how bad my body hurt when I first started working there, how my arms and my back, I could barely get out to the car the next morning. Ugh. I remember going to the restroom at break and changing shirts. I was wringing wet, because I was not used to that work yet. And, I could see other people doing it. And I thought, man, they're just having a party. They're sitting in the car going along and doing their thing. And they get out and go the next one. And they're not stressed at all. But I was pretty darn stressed for a while. It took a while. But I never forgot all that. And I think, that's part of it. You're better at what you do at different levels if you never forget where you came from. It makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the skills you've gained over time on many jobs and become a part of who you are. Mm-hmm. Your experience.
Yeah.
And those offerings come into your voice work too.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I'm attracted to a lot of e-learning, a lot because I did a lot of teaching when I was working in the church. Where I was teaching in a choir practice situation, teaching people how to sing better, how to make this sound, really crafted well, and techniques, not always teaching. So I feel like I bring that in, that style that I developed over those many years of leading many, many, many choir practices, and I bring that into my e-learning.
Makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And I definitely see that for you too. I mean, like just from conversations we've had outside of the podcasting, you're very present, and I think that's definitely important when you're teaching. Yeah. Whether it's your voice or whether, I think it's my dog barking if that's what you're listening for.
I was listening because mine have been barking at the AC guys all day, but they're gone.
Yeah, unfortunately, my dog's probably barking at nothing, so that's always fun. Especially, I've not yet happened while I've been in a session with somebody, but yeah, rest assured, I will give that dog a stern talking to. Well, do you guys have any last thoughts before we decide to close this episode out? I mean, like I know we kind of touched on why at the beginning, but give me a reason why it's important to have a why.
Well, I think it's two things, and I'll give you the why. You have to keep your eyes fixed on the goal, because this can be a very discouraging. Building any business can get you discouraged when things don't go your way or things don't go the way you thought they were going to go. But when you're the only one, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It means everything is up to you. The bad is everything's up to you. So if you slough off and don't get it done, that's your fault. But if you're doing the right things, trust the process, as you said earlier, but also keep the why in mind. Why am I doing this? Because if you keep the why in mind, then you're going to reach those goals at some point, because consistency is the key.
Ooh, I like
and
that.
remembering your why helps you remain consistent and do the things you have to get done.
Absolutely.
Also, because we also talked, and I think this is good, this is why they're paired together. We talked about the skills we bring in from our previous life experiences. Remind yourself that you do have what it takes. Right?
Yes,
Right.
Because when you get
Right.
discouraged, the first thing that comes to mind, I suck. I just can't do this. But you can. And everything you bring in to this voiceover career is what it takes to be the unique you that you can offer to clients. So you have the why and the how.
Man, Alden, you're excellent points, man. Yeah, no wonder you're good at e-learning. Troy, what about you, man?
I try to look at it as I want to have a positive why for every negative why. Why didn't I get that audition? Well, throw a positive why at it. Well, because of my voice was not suited for that. Don't worry about it, because their what and their why, what they were looking for, just wasn't a fit that day. And I always just try to offset everything with the positive. I feel like some weeks I'm like, my gosh, it's like I've got some regular clients that have come back this week, thank goodness, but the new stuff, and I'm always questioning, why am I not getting more new stuff? Who have you reached out to get the new stuff? What did you do about it? And the principle of I think it's the 4 W's or the 5 W's, you got to work through all of those when you start questioning, why am I still doing this? And why is it not growing, and why is it not happening for me? And then start asking, what did you do to make it better this week? And answer to yourself and make yourself answer to it. So I think that's a lot of it. It's just always have an offset, and don't don't let the rejection stuff drag you completely down, because that's the name of this game.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
What did I see yesterday? Average person books, after they've been in this a while, 1 out of 50 auditions. That's average. New people, 1 out of 100. People that are very seasoned and know how to choose their auditions, they'll book 1 in 10 or 1 in 20.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
But it takes a while to get there, like you said.
But remember, that's 1 yes and 19 no's.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. You know?
Man, I really like both. I really like both of what you guys had to bring to that. I just to kind of touch back on both those things. Yeah, I think it is very important to have your why, because you focus on why you're doing it, and that gives you motivation. I mean, like going back to my why about wanting to do things for my mom. I mean, like that's my motivation. Sometimes I'll get down on myself, but it's like, but look, if you can pull this off, if you keep trusting the process, if you trust the grind, then you can pull that off for her. And then, that's, at least for me anyway, that's why I think a why is important as well, for the motivation to keep your focus there. I mean, there's so many ways you can take it, as we've all just kind of proved. We can so many ways you can take that and use that to just better yourself in general. Maybe not just with your business, but just yourself in general. Have a why and stick to it. But
be good to people, pay it forward.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
One thing that, definitely believe in yourself, but always invest in yourself, because there's always something else somebody can show you, or teach you. And one thing I tell people a lot of times in these business consults that I do occasionally is that there's, we may have talked about it last time, there's so many paths from A to Z. And, and this is like when a script comes in, there's so many ways you could break that down. And this coach will give you that method, and this one gives you that method. You'll find your own way, and keep investing in yourself until you find all of that, and all this becomes second nature. For me, it's still work. I see so many people that when they're teaching me, they can so quickly go, but don't you see this? Look right here. Here's where it does it. And I'm like going, And it takes a minute,
Sure.
sometimes it takes a minute because that's, my background was shipping car parts all over the world. That was what I did. But, and even being a musician, being creative, I still find it hard sometimes. So I want to keep investing in whatever it takes to be better at it. And so that's part of my why is I want to be as good as, I don't want to be them, but I want to be able to do what they do without thinking. It just snap, it comes,
right.
You knock it out. And that's one of the goals I've got. So,
and every investment you make in yourself makes you more valuable
to your clients,
right? To add value to your clients.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff indeed, man. Thanks again, guys, for meeting again today to talk about this stuff. And for you guys tuning in and listening, we really appreciate you guys, man. We hope you enjoy. And again, don't hesitate to send us questions. I believe the email is anothervopodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys and see what you guys would like to add to the conversation, want to hear us talk about, or just
tell us your why.
On. Yes, exactly. Tell us your why. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Tell us your why at anothervopodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, like why did Jake leave his dog out? Come on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, maybe we'll get the answer in the next episode of It's Another VO Podcast. Thanks again for joining in, guys, and we will see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of It's Another VO Podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. You can also email us your questions to anothervopodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at Another VO Podcast. See you next time.